webinar control panel to allow all attendees to hear you. This system will notify you once you begin.
We're going. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Business Unusual podcast with pictures or webinar series that is being co-sponsored by the Women's Business Center. It's something that SalesWorks and Motley Creations cooked up in March as something that we thought would be kind of cool at the beginning of a pandemic to help people with pivoting their prospecting effort. And my role, I'm Brendan Filbert, and my job is teaching you how to get in front of your next best opportunity, whether that be the perfect client that you want to secure for your own business, or maybe it's a consulting engagement or interim role until you find your next job, or it could be your next job. So that's the perspective that I'm taking with everything that we're delivering. And I am so excited to be joined by Chris Motley. Yeah, and he's got a really cool, fantastic 30-second commercial to share now.
She is very good at everything she just said. I'm Chris Motley. I'm the owner of Motley Creations, where we make you look good. Motley Creations is what we do is managed marketing services for small and medium-sized businesses with big goals. So what we do is find right-sized solutions to execute on your marketing strategy, and we develop the brand and the image you need to have to succeed.
Awesome. All right, now we are going to talk about one of my absolute favorite topics in the world, pretty much. I mean, short of talking about horses, talking about referrals and getting referrals from clients, it is way up there. I'm telling you, you could put a nickel in me and I would just get going and keep going. So I kind of get to be the Energizer Bunny with this. So I'm already going to give Chris the heads up that if I start chasing too many rabbits, to reel me back in and bring me back around, because again, this is a topic that I am so incredibly passionate about. And I am excited to share it with you today. And we are going to hopefully walk away, each one of us, thinking about something that we can do better in our prospecting effort to maximize that low-hanging fruit that is the best opportunity in our prospecting pipeline, and that's client referrals. So we're going to dig into how you're going to go about creating this fantastic client referral rewards program. All right, so now to get started, first thing that we really have to look at is, who is this session for? And normally when we build something like this, Chris and I are kind of like okay, what target audience do we really want to serve? And we normally end up with something that may be a little bit specific or niche-y, and that's not the case today. Our topic today is about getting referred to anyone that has, or getting referred by anyone that has happy clients. And that's what we really want to focus on, is creating that extraordinary experience that makes somebody really want to brag about what it was like to work with us, because that is what is going to get you the best opportunities with the highest conversion rate and the least amount of effort on your part. And also to that end, I know I have several professionals on our call today that, well, you know, you may not like cold calling in order to find business. Or if you're an attorney, and I got a few of those typically on our call, you actually hate cold calling so much you changed the law so it made it illegal for you to cold call anybody. And they've got non-solicitation agreements in the legal field that you literally cannot approach a cold prospect in the traditional manner of picking up the phone and just reaching out. There has to be a connection made. So there's a lot of us that depend on that word of mouth business. And we also recognize that that's where our time is probably best spent, is cultivating that word of mouth. And that's why so many people do so much networking and all this thought leadership and all this engagement. Well, today I want to help you just really organize all of those different things that you've got going. So you think about it like you're juggling. You get all kinds of stuff going when you're in business development. You've got networking that's going on. You may have drop-ins or walk-ins, or you may have lead campaigns where you've got someone booking appointments for you. You get all this stuff going, and unfortunately, some of the best efforts that you could be doing are the balls that you're dropping. And I don't want you to do that. So we want to make sure that you are focusing your efforts and energy on what is going to have the highest return on energy. So instead of ROI, it's ROE. And that's what we're really going to dig into today. Now, first thing that I want to start with is I just want to get a sense of who do I have in the room. And we want to really dig in and recognize who you want to focus on. So before we dive in, we got a typo there, Chris. Look at that.
Yay.
I better hurry up and skip it. Okay. All right. So when I'm talking about our efforts as we move forward, I want you to think about, and I want you to chat this into the message for me, if you would, is first of all, do you have a client referral rewards program? And I'm telling you, chat, but we want to use the questions pane for this. So go ahead and just message me real quick. Do you currently have one? Yes or no? Okay. We're hearing from a few folks that we've got it. So I should be hearing from just about everybody. Okay. And now the client, when I say client rewards program, this is where you have something that is in place to recognize and reward a client that opens the door to an opportunity that turns into business. So I'll narrow that definition just a bit. Okay, so we've got some yeses and some nos. All right, now, do you have a target audience for this client referral rewards program? In other words, are there particular clients that you really emphasize and promote it to, or is it something that you just broadcast out to everybody? So we'll take a second and chat that one in for me. Chat, questions. That's what I'm telling everybody. Is it to everybody, anyone and everyone? Okay. So it looks like they tend to be a pretty broad, sorry about that. They tend to be a pretty broad audience that you're targeting with referral rewards. Okay, so one thing that I want to kick things off with is I want to share with you a lot of my lessons learned. And it's been from my days in the car business as well as where, that's all I've been focusing on since 2003 is creating that referral business and that word of mouth that's going to consistently feed you the kind of business you're looking for. And one of the things that I learned early on is the more targeted and focused I could be with my referral rewards program, the more it became a habit and just routine for me to focus on this. And what I want you to be thinking about as we move forward is I really want you thinking about how you're going to create the system and the process that would translate across your entire relationship base for how you're going to approach your client referral rewards. So with that, I'm going to recommend that you have your notebook and you grab a pen because you are going to want to take notes today. And you will also be getting the recording link for this session on Monday. And it's a YouTube channel. You're also going to find on that YouTube channel that we have, this is episode number 22. So we've got 21 other episodes up there that are focused on nothing but prospecting and marketing post-pandemic. So we've got some awesome stuff up there. And setting the stage and practicing what I teach, if you find value or benefit in participating in today's webinar, I would really ask you to take the session that you've shared or that you participated in and share that with someone else that you think would find value in the content that we're covering today. Because word of mouth is truly how business is being done. And we depend upon every individual that has a positive experience with our training to share it with someone else that we would like to meet or that should know about what we're doing. So I'm going to just set the stage right there. And one lesson that I want you to immediately take away is that you need to set the stage for your clients to have an extraordinary, highly referable experience with you. And knowing that I'm going to ask you to do something for me, I have to create emotional equity during the experience that you have with me. Because whether or not you're buying one of my training programs or a product or service from me, you still need to walk away feeling like you got more than you paid for. And that's where your referrals are going to come in. It's when you over deliver and create that truly extraordinary client experience. That's where it all has to begin. So if we get into the nuts and bolts of what a referral rewards program is, it's a pretty simple, we've got a incentive that's we put out there, and it's in place that sets the stage for asking for referrals from happy clients. And we put the process in place not only for the communication of it and consistency, but it also puts it in there as a trap and a reminder of we've got to do this with every single client so that it becomes one of our habits. Because I shared the statistic when we first kicked this off that more than 90%, the numbers are actually 93% of happy clients would refer, and about 34% of salespeople ask, or business development professionals. And you also have to recognize that every single person, if you lead a business, every single person in that company contributes to that extraordinary client experience. And also they contribute to creating that emotional tie and asking for that referral when that positive experience happens. So it's very important that you look at any referral rewards program as a true collaboration, because we don't want to create these silos within what it is that we're doing. Because if you build a referral rewards program that's only focused on one person or one role in your company, you're going to limit the potential contribution of others into making that client experience all that it can be. So I gave the example throughout the newsletter that I shared on Tuesday, where I talked about introducing across I took them to the service department and to the parts department, and they met people in the office, and they got the grand tour of the dealership. But more importantly, they were introduced to everybody that they would need to interact with during their entire life cycle of owning that car. And while I was the salesperson that was at the very front of that process, I also ensured that they went into every avenue of their experience with our dealership with the expectation of, there's somebody here, I've already visited with them, I know what their first name is, she shared something personal about them with me. I normally shared something like they're a scratch golfer like you are, or, there was always something that was a tie that was made so that they had something to talk about. And it made it such an amazing experience then, not to mention every single one of those people, my best referral sources came from within my own organization. The parts department, whenever they'd have somebody that would come in that would gasp about, it's going to cost me $1,500 in parts alone to fix my car, so that I've had for 22 years. Wow. Well, how much is it to get a new one? They didn't just point and send that customer over to the new car showroom. They paged me and they asked me to come over, and then they made the introduction and handoff, which meant I went from being one out of a pool to being the only one that they reached out for. And that's the thing that you have to think about with the referral rewards program, is you want to incentivize that introduction and that direct handoff. So there's another nugget that I'm going to share with you. So we've already talked a little bit about this one as far as what percentage it is. And this is not a case of 76% of statistics are made up on the spot. This truly is statistics that are based on, I think it was HubSpot that did the most recent study of this, based on conversations with prospects and client surveys. And I mean, they analyzed hundreds of thousands of interactions in order to come up with these. So we have some really good data that we're basing this information on. And it really tells us, this really tells us that this is an area that we should focus on. But don't take it from me. Let's look at what it would do for you and your business. So I'm going to ask you to do something for me. And this is going to be just a little bit of thinking and planning. And how about, I'm actually going to pick on Bill. Can you come out and play? Can I bring you in?
Sure.
Okay, fantastic. All right. So Bill, I know that you've done some analysis of your absolute best clients, those platinum relationships that you would like to reproduce and have, you know, hundreds of them in your business. But let's look beyond just that platinum and think about also those gold clients that may be at the initial stage of doing business with you and creating that long-term relationship. So let's group those two people, those two client profiles together. Now, talk to me about what happens in your business if each one of those people introduces you to someone that looks just like them within the next 6 months.
It grows exponentially. And, you know, throughout the years, I've relied very heavily on those referral partnerships and asking those questions and looking for my ideal clients and profiling my platinum client and even my gold clients. You know, developing those relationships is part of my job. Really, I want to act as an advisor first, but that trust is earned throughout time, and it develops that respect and really that relationship long term. So looking at those, that's really what I want. And yeah, to your point, it would grow exponentially.
Okay, so let's talk nitty gritty. So if you've got do you know how many clients fit into that platinum category that you currently have?
Out of the ones that I currently have right now, there are 32 that I consider platinum clients.
Okay, fantastic. Now, what about gold clients?
Gold clients is a much bigger number. I've got right around, 75 of those.
Okay, so you roughly have a universe of 100 people to work with.
Right.
Okay, so if you broke that down into 100 people that you need to cultivate for within the next 6 months, and I know you've got an aggressive goal to reach by the end of the year. So let's even say, what have we got left? 5 months?
Yeah, 5 months is a stretch for me because I almost think our sales cycle is longer than that. And I'm almost putting us in October at this point, really, with the timeline. But yeah, we've got 5 months of cultivating those relationships left. You bet.
Okay, so with that, what you need to make sure that you do, and this is one of the key lessons that I want everybody in on this call to be paying attention to, is if you have a universe, 100 sounds kind of like a big number to some people. And to others, you may only have 1 or 2 clients that fit in to that platinum bucket. And whatever that number is, what I want you to be thinking about is how are you going to break the numbers down so that if we look at that, that's roughly 1 client meeting per day that you need to focus on in order to set the stage for cultivating that ask and that opportunity for them to engage and create the chance for them to refer you. So you got to get it down into those manageable numbers and say that at least 1 time per day, you need to be communicating and sharing your Client Referral Rewards Program at least once per day. Because the thing that we don't want to do is build it and then hope they'll come. You know, we often have Chris chime in with this. This is not the field of dreams. Whatever it is that we build, we have got to communicate it. He's actually going to talk about communication, so I don't want to steal that from him as we start talking here. But you have to recognize that we got to break this down into what we're going to do every single day to communicate and let people know about what this Client Referral Rewards Program is. And to that end, and I've got to share a really funny example here. Bill, you and I both know Mike, the financial advisor that took the class way back in 2005, I think it was. Anyway, and what was so funny is he created this amazing client referral rewards program. And then he practiced it for about 6 months and got so many new clients in that he didn't have time in order to keep following up on it, and it fell by the wayside. That ever happened to anybody? Bill?
Oh, absolutely. No, yeah.
I'm on.
Yep. If I'm reading my own mail throughout the years, for sure. That's absolutely what happens. I get distracted very easily.
And you are not alone. We all do it. So what we have to think about is you have to think about the math. So everybody else, the questions that I just asked Bill about who fits into that bucket of platinum, who fits into that bucket of gold relationships, and that has to do with your client profile. And I'm going to talk about that here in just a few minutes. But everything that we do is based on these client profiles that you want to reproduce. And we've got to break it down into what we're going to do every single day and stay focused and consistent on. Thanks for coming out to play, Bill. And I'm probably going to come back and pick on you later. So don't go far.
All right. Very good.
All right. Now let's dig in and let's talk about how you're going to design the ultimate, fantastic, spectacular, outstanding client referral rewards program. So my question that I have for you is, at what point are your customers the most excited about what you have to offer? When can they speak to your best results? So let's see, who could I pick on? Brenda, can I bring you out to play?
Yes, you can.
Okay, fantastic. All right. So Brenda is one of my longtime clients that has been in the human capital space throughout her entire career. And, or at least in some way, shape, or form, I think that's pretty fair, isn't it, Brenda?
Yes, in different iterations, yes.
Okay, fantastic. So with the role you currently have now, which is where you are expressing appreciation and loyalty and creating programs around that for both prospecting and sales and client and just anybody related that has a client, they've got client relationships that they want to protect is who you're serving now, right?
Correct.
Okay, so when do your customers really have the opportunity to have touched or tasted or felt or experienced your service? At what point does that happen?
Yeah, I think that they get most excited. The first time they get most excited is probably about 30 to 60 days, in the 30 to 60 day period after they become a customer, once they get through the initial setup and learning. But I would say in the first 30 to 60 days is when the light bulb goes off and they go, oh my gosh, this is awesome.
Okay. So, but is that really when they have the maximum delight from it? Or is it when they're just starting to wrap their head around, ooh, this is really cool?
Well, okay, that's good. So yeah, I signed up a new customer last Thursday and they've emailed me almost daily since last Thursday with delight, excitement questions. So yeah, it's probably in that first week or so or two where they're really most excited.
Okay. Well, so if that's when they're the most excited, when can they really speak to the benefits and the results? So the benefits they experience, the results they achieve. At what point does that happen?
Well, that's probably more in the 30 to 60 day time frame once they've used it and had the results and response from it. So probably 30 days.
Okay.
30 to 45.
Okay. So then what you need to think about is what else is happening in your perfect client's life at about 30 to 60 days that would be a value add to them that would make them say, you know, that was the cherry on top of the sundae. So that's what you really, when you're designing your client referral rewards program, that's what you want to think about. So thank you for playing, Brenda. I'll bring you back here in a few minutes.
Okay.
But when you think about what the referral rewards would look like, everybody has a tendency, and I'm going to talk to you about some of my lessons learned about don't do this. Don't ever, ever, ever do this. Or, you know, it's not the best. You're not going to get the best results that you're looking for from this. Or, you know, this is kind of like that. Even a blind squirrel will find a nut every now and then. And unfortunately, sometimes those tactics with that intermittent reinforcement teaches us really bad habits. And I don't want you to learn bad habits with your prospecting. So know that referrals are more than just asking for them, because you don't just want somebody to throw you a name and a number, because if they throw you a name and a number, you've got a lead that you may have a 3 to 5% chance of closing business. But if someone gives an introduction to a prospect that has the means, the money, and the motivation to do business with you, and they share a bit of their experience that they had in working with you, you've got a 50 to 90% chance of getting business out of that. Now, I want that to sink in. So 3 to 5% if somebody throws a name and number your way versus a 50 to 90%. So when I'm talking about creating that referral rewards program, I want you focusing on those introductions from someone that has experienced you and what you have to offer and the benefits of it, that is sharing their story. They're waving your banner. They're doing a lot more they're advocates of yours, not just somebody that's providing a, hey, you know, you should call on XYZ company, and you're just out there stumbling around trying to figure out who on earth are you calling on. And then you may feed a name or number to them, and they're given this, you know, you get this look on their face that's like, now who is that? How do I know him? That, you know, we don't want that happening with the introductions we're looking for. So when you're designing your client rewards program, you want them doing more than just coming up with a name and number every now and then. You want them to actually sell your services for you. And that's what we're looking to create with the rewards program. Now let's dig into who it is that's going to refer you and who do we focus this on? Because I don't want this to go out to everybody. Let me share a little bit of my lessons that I learned from the car business. I was the one that I sold mostly Land Cruisers and 4Runners and trucks, the vehicles that we actually made a little bit of margin on, and I could have a respectable commission. So I was the dealership truck specialist, just based on, you know, I'm a horse person and we're all about the trucks. So that was kind of where I spent most of my time. But I created this really cool referral rewards program that ended up, so it started out, I was doing so much. I would basically spend my entire week driving around and picking up cars and dropping off cars and doing oil changes. And I mean, I literally had my demo out at least every day. And in some cases, I may have had to borrow a demo to do 2 oil changes in a day if they kind of stacked up. So it ended up getting kind of busy. And what I found is I invested the same amount of effort in cultivating referrals from somebody who bought a Corolla and I made $100 commission on, as someone who bought a Land Cruiser that I made $1,500 on. It was the same amount of effort. So what I learned, and it's funny because I actually used to have my client profiles were based on the woodland animals, and we had bear were the best opportunities that you could get. You could bag a bear and eat for the winter. And if you would bag a deer, you'd eat for a month. And it took 5 rabbits to make a meal. Well, one of the things that I discovered with my Client Referral Rewards Program is, you know, I did it originally thinking, hey, maybe the people with the Corollas are going to know people that drive nicer cars, but it didn't happen. I mean, the people that drove Corollas introduced me to other Corolla drivers, and the people that drove Land Cruisers introduced me to other Land Cruiser and Avalon and the luxury lineup. So what you have to remember is that the bear hang out with rabbits only in Disney movies. It doesn't happen in real life. So I want you to get super specific. And the question that I asked Bill when we started about who is your target client that you most want to create the referral rewards program around, that's who we've got to focus this attention and energy on. And it's got to be that platinum or preferred client, or that gold, or it's profitable, but it's probably our average client that comes in. But the nice thing, and to Bill's point, he brought up something that's really good that we all need to keep in mind. And it's you're going to have a sales cycle attached to this. And in some cases, you may have renewal dates or something else that creates this window of time that you can only get to that prospect between this day and this day. And the rest of the time, they're just not open for a conversation. So when that comes into play, that's why you focus consistently on gold clients as well, so that you're able to get to the bank every single month and not always have these prospects that are stacking up that won't close for 6 or 9 or 12 months. Are you following me? I want to make sure everybody's with me on this. So get super specific. So when you design your target client profile, make sure that, and the other thing is when you design a referral rewards program, I have designed all of mine with the support of my customer. They have participated in the conversation to tell me what they would find the most benefit in, and what they would really, what would motivate them to refer. And we've also got to spend just a little bit of time. We're going to talk about it as far as what's an appropriate level of reward, because we have a tendency to fall into it's got to be something extravagant or something really big or something very valuable. But actually, what I want you to remember is that people are motivated in one of two ways, either intrinsically or extrinsically. And there is a really good book that I absolutely love that is called Drive by Daniel Pink. And you don't have to go read the whole book, although it is a really good read. You can go to YouTube and do just a quick search on Daniel Pink and Drive and animate. And there is a really short, one of those animated video summaries of the book that's like 10 minutes long. And it's important that you understand what motivates people, because we have extrinsic rewards that are tied to money, or they're tied to recognition, or they're tied to status. The thing to recognize about extrinsic rewards is they have a tendency to be fleeting. And in some cases, people may look at the effort involved and feel as if it's, well, you did this for me and that's all I got. And we don't want to create that with our customers. We also don't ever want it to look like it's a bribe for their referrals. We want the referral to be an investment in our business. And almost we want them to feel like they are invested in us. So to that end, I recognize that you give something that is a service that is only available to people that are your advocates. And I also recommend that it's something that's priceless. You really can't wrap a dollar figure around it. And I'm going to give just a really quick example here. So I was sharing with Bill, and he and I both know this financial advisor that's been a phenomenal client of mine since 2005. And Mike has referred me to 226 different prospects since 2005. That's a lot of business. He's been a phenomenal advocate for my business. And on average, I've closed at least 25% of the introductions that he's made for me. Now, let me tell you what motivated Mike to refer me. Because if I think about how much money he spent with me over the course of our relationship, I mean, we're talking it's under $5,000. But what he's invested in my business has been one of the most foundational investments. I can tie a lot of my business today back to the introductions from the first 3 people that came through my program. And that's when you design your business so that your clients become your sales team, then that's how you can scale and grow your efforts in a way that I only work with amazing people. That's what's so cool about what I do, is your clients attract other people that look just like them. But now getting back to why Mike referred me. Mike's a financial advisor, yes, which means, okay, so he's probably motivated by money, but yet really Mike's a good guy. And Mike has just always enjoyed feeling like he's contributing to my success. And I have let him know, and I've recognized every single time he's opened a door for me that's been amazing. And I've also done something for him that's pretty important to him. So he is a very successful wealth manager. He's listed by Money Magazine and Business Week, and I mean, all these different publications have recognized him as one of the top wealth managers in the country. What Mike has in abundance or lacks is time. And so many of your clients, this is exactly where they fit. They're highly successful. And if you give them something that they already have, they don't appreciate that because, well, they've already got it. So when you give them back the gift of time, though, that's something that you're truly making an impact in their business and in their life. So what I gave back to Mike is I gave him back time because everybody in his hound dog would come to him regularly with a, hey, let me handle the estate planning. Hey, I'd like to be the banker you refer. Ooh, I could be a really good accountant for you. I mean, everybody was knocking on his door, but the problem was very few people would actually reciprocate or recognize the effort that's required in a mutually beneficial referral partnership. So every single person that would knock on his door asking for his introductions, he would immediately refer to me and say, you know what? We treat referrals differently within our organization. And this is the person that's helped us lay the foundation for how we structure our referral partnerships. Go take a look at what she has to offer. And then if it's something that makes sense for you and your business, I would love to participate in her program with you. And Mike went through the program 8 times. And he was not remedial in any way, shape, or form. He wanted to build that experience throughout his entire sales process and onboarding of clients, so that rewards program was built in and the expectation established from the very beginning. And then when you do that and you focus on creating that extraordinarily highly remarkable, that somebody's going to talk a lot about, then you're going to find that it's a lot easier to create these programs and cultivate referrals. The other thing also is make sure that it is exclusive. So for example, I often give services and I give away something that is only available to my client advocates. So what I do as far as creating my own, I love creating different solutions for my clients. And my clients that refer me consistently have access to my workshops. They get first look at anything that I'm doing, and they get to come through it for free. And they get to be the test cases for how the process is going to work. So there are certain things that I've figured out, and my clients are all lifelong learners. The other thing that I've done a lot of is, with being lifelong learners, I share a lot of books and a lot of information that is, well, so again, most of the folks that I work with bill out, I mean, their billing rate per hour is in excess of $250 an hour. So whenever I give them a book or something, I go through the book and I will highlight entire sections and dog-ear pages and make notes in the margin according to what I feel they should pay attention to. Because when I do that, again, I've just skipped all that reading that they have to do, and they can just go to the sections that are relevant to what they're doing. Okay, now I'm going to dig into deliver, but I want to make sure that I take just a minute here and answer any questions. And I know I'm going kind of fast, so let me know where's this really resonating for you? Where are you seeing maybe some of the gaps in your own referral rewards program? Let's take just a second and do a quick check. And then I'm going to also grab it because I'm getting a dry throat. I don't want to cough on anybody. Any questions? Chris, what would you add that I haven't talked about?
Just a couple things from different questions that have been asked is, so yes, we are going to send out a recording of this video. We are going to send out this PowerPoint and things like that. And always remember though, is that we're touching the 10,000 foot view of this, and there's so much more. It's like an iceberg. There's so much more underneath. And we'd love to have that conversation with you, right? We both have servants mentality, and we'd love to expand on this in a way that's relevant to you. So, and then Brendan, Dolores asked, she said they did a rewards program that was perceived as a bribe, so they stopped doing it. And I thought that was interesting because I've never heard anybody say something to that nature before.
Well, I've heard of that. I have heard of that before, and you know, in terms of when you put something there, in a lot of cases, I will share with you that if it was perceived as a bribe, it's probably how it was delivered in terms of how you communicate what the referral rewards program is. So here's the thing that you got to be really careful about whenever you design a client referral rewards program. And everybody, I know I've got some folks that may have checked, they're over surfing on Facebook or checking social media. Come back to me because this is really important. What I want you to keep in mind when you design your referral rewards program is that you set the stage at the beginning of the experience that says, I am going to work my tail off in order to make sure that you have a truly extraordinary experience so far beyond your expectations that you can't help but tell all your friends and family about it. So that's what's really important, is you have to set the stage in advance that says, I'm going to do more than you're paying me for, but I'm not doing it just for free out of the goodness of my heart. You know, Chris just gave you a prime example of, we have a servant's heart, but with that servant's heart, we also communicate very clearly that, and this is how you can help us, because that reciprocity trigger is so powerful. And the problem with a lot of how we work as professionals is we just keep over delivering. So it's kind of like client jumps and we just keep, you know, we're pogoing, we're like Tigger bouncing along on our tail. And we never at any point stop and say, okay, here's how you can really help me. So if you approach it as a quid pro quo, then it's a, you know what, we're going to do this for you, but we only do this for you after you refer us. Then that is going to sound like a bribe. You see the difference? But if you deliver it more as a, I am going to work my tail off, and if and when you experience something that makes you say, holy cow, that was amazing, this is how you thank me for it. You thank me for it by referring me or introducing me to someone that looks just like this. And you give them that client profile that they know immediately, oh, I've got somebody.
So then
But
another
it
question.
sets the stage.
Sorry, another question we have is, somebody's having trouble with clients doing virtual introductions and how to position that.
So virtual introductions are just as powerful, but I do recommend that when an introduction is made, it's a, do you remember what I said about you want your client to share what was extraordinary about working with you? If you're not getting the virtual introduction made, then chances are that isn't happening for you right now. You don't have somebody that is sharing how extraordinary it was to work with you. And yes, I know I'm using that word extraordinary a lot, but it's if you are going to create an amazing rewards program, it's got to be something that is just a wow, that they have experienced something and they're so excited about it that they just have to tell all their friends. So that's really important. And when that introduction is made in that way, in a lot of cases, you have to help them help you. So if they say, hey, I've got somebody that I would love to introduce you to, it's a fantastic. What would you be able to share with them about your experience in working with me? And then you want to hear how they're going to be making that introduction. And then it's a fantastic. Would you be willing to sit in on a call while we talk through where you saw the opportunity for me to help them? Because sometimes if you're participating in that conversation, that first call is going to be a lot more effective for them and for me, and let me help them as quickly and to the fullest extent that I can during the time that we would have. Would you be willing to do that? So it's all how you set the stage. Does that help, Lisa? Did I answer your question? I think
Yes.
I saw that that was chatted.
Yes. Yes. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, fantastic. All right. So now I'm going to warn everybody right now, we are going to run over today. Okay, so I'm going to apologize in advance and let you know if you need to hop off the call, then just tune in at minute number 56 on the recording to listen to whatever it is that you may miss out on. Because today's topic is one, it's so important to your business. And I want you to walk away with action items that you will implement so that you build a rewards program in your own business, because this is the foundation of every marketing and every sales effort that you have. I mean, this is where it all begins, because I want to share something with you. If you think about your cost of acquisition, in the very beginning, whenever you're going to go land a new client, we always have to allocate and figure out what are you willing to spend to get a client. And you would normally work with someone like Chris that will help you with figuring out what you're willing to spend for that cost per lead, or CPL. So we have this cost per lead that is often tied to, you buy a list, and then out of that list, you're going to start calling all of those people on the list. And you're going to very quickly discover that 99% of the people that you talk to do not have the means or the money or the motivation to work with you. So your cost per lead isn't tied to how much it costs you to buy the list, but every minute you spent calling a business owner that you caught them cold, they had no idea you were calling, they didn't know why they were talking to you, they didn't necessarily have a need, the timing wasn't right, whatever. So you have a huge acquisition cost whenever you're working with cold lists or cold leads. When you get referred by one of your amazing clients, they're probably introducing you to someone that has the means, they have the money, and they have the motivation to do something. And that person making the introduction has lent you their influence. So whatever they've done in terms of cultivating that relationship. So if they're peers, business peers that they have a lot of respect or regard for, all of that influence translates over to you, or a significant chunk of it does. So that's why these referrals are so pivotal to your business. So Chris, what would you add?
Well, I just wanted to say something is that one of our participants has a question for you, and he wanted to ask it instead of type it because it's rather lengthy. So I just want to say, Bill, go ahead.
No, and I mean, okay, so I have a client that is more than willing. So even at the end of a meeting, I get done with a prospect meeting, I know I can text that person at the end of that meeting, and she would be willing to make that call right then and there on my behalf. She's that overwhelmed with how well we've done for her in the past. That's above and beyond. So I think really my question is framed around more, what can I do to frame a business case to the organization to say this person's referrals are exponentially far more valuable than even their current business. Does that make sense?
So are you wanting to basically give services then in exchange for introductions?
Well, yes. And, again, in order to do that, we oftentimes, far too often, I feel like we say, hey, each referral is worth X amount or even a credit, those types of things. What you said to me really kind of hit a chord this morning. And
that's extrinsic. If you put a dollar amount on it, then it's either I have to introduce you up to that point, and then you're always running this it's like this balance sheet of right. Is it enough or is it not enough? So Agreed. So I don't necessarily like tying anything that a prospect can say it was X amount for this.
I love that idea. And again, I'm sharing this in my Monday morning meeting with the sales team. So very much appreciated. Thank you both.
Yeah. And the other thing that I tell you is this will also keep you out of trouble if you've got, like, I know I've got folks on this call that are in the real estate profession. And I know that you've got dollar amounts. I think it's what, $25 or something like that you can't spend over. In the pharma industry. You can't spend $1 on someone to thank them for a referral unless you can take them food, but that's it. So, I mean, there are industries that are so tightly regulated about what you can and cannot do and can and cannot give. So that's part of the reason. I mean, my oil change, okay, if you would have bought an oil change from the dealership, it would have been $25. And then it would have been another $20 that I threw at the porter for washing the car and vacuuming it and doing a little bit better job than he normally did whenever he would do the cleanup. Because they always did a car wash with oil changes, but they always went just a little bit further with mine. They got a little bit extra time with the chamois because I just threw $20 at the porter every time he did it. So, but what I did is I ended up negotiating. I was the service department's second biggest client. I mean, literally, I would buy 20 oil changes a month at $20 per oil change. And I did it every single month. But they gave me a deal of, instead of it being $28 for an oil change, it was $20. So, but it's a case of the $40 that was my direct cost wasn't the real reward. The real reward was me going and picking it up and visiting with them and dropping my car off. And basically it was all seamless. They didn't have to do anything. And it was the gift of time.
Good stuff. Thank you.
So, okay. So hopefully that'll help in terms of when you think about creating a referral reward. So I give services, but I give services that they cannot buy. So the clients that refer me, they get access to a level of support and coaching that if you were going to hire me, you don't get access to that part. And the other thing that I do is I refer back. And that's something, if somebody investing in you and giving clients or giving access to relationships that are truly helpful in their business, those are other huge rewards. So, okay, any other questions before we continue on into design? We still good? All right. So now let's talk about the process. So I've spent a lot of time talking about communicating expectations that say this is going to be a truly extraordinary experience, then you want to make sure that you lay out the process of intervention if it is not an extraordinary experience. So, for example, I always set the stage at the very beginning of it. It was, if this is something that you have really benefited from and you've enjoyed working with me, I'd like for you to share others. If you have not, I want to know so we can fix it. And if you're not comfortable talking to me, let me introduce you to my manager. And I would love for you to share him any insight that you have for how I could have made this a better experience for you. And I did that in such a way that the client, and again, what's really important here, people have a really hard time. I mean, social media is an exception right now, but they would have a really hard time saying, you know, Brendan, I didn't quite appreciate this about working with you. You didn't explain that as well as I thought you should have. So they don't always like doing that. So that's when I like bringing in that other voice or that other person that can be the mediator, that can say, okay, this is what we could have done better. The other thing is I was always asking, how can we do this better? And again, you want people to invest in you and feel invested in your success. And the more they give you insight about, you know, if you would have done this, I would have really enjoyed that. Or it would have helped me have a better experience with you if this would have been delivered in this way. And the more that people feel like they're a part of your product or service and making it better, the more excited they are to tell all of their friends. Because it's funny, Mike would regularly contribute into my conversation and say, she didn't used to teach the class this way. This is how she used to teach it. But I told her that this is how it helped me. And this is how she redid the program based on what my contribution was. That's another thing that led to the 227 referrals. So that's something else. And then you remember, we want to make sure that it's an introduction across your entire process and organization or team. Now, let me show you what that looks like if you're a solopreneur. If it's just you, you're all alone. Well, Chris, would you come on and say hi and wave at everybody? This is an example. This is an example of how you get to introduce others. Chris may not be a part of my organization, but he's a part of my process. And you are going to have professionals that you work with that are a part of your process in order to make it seamless. And the more you make those direct introductions so that people have a face and they recognize how much you trust and respect that person you work with, the more excited they are to make sure that they embrace that relationship to the same extent you are embraced. Make sense? Now, when I say tie to compensation, here's one thing that I want to be clear about, is I always have kind of this threshold in my mind about what I would invest in terms of a referral reward. And I want to make sure that there is enough value for someone to perceive it as, oh, that was really extraordinary. I felt really good about that. The other thing that you have to keep in mind is that, and when you tie it to compensation, make sure that you factor in all of the elements that you're investing. So it's not just a matter of how much you physically spend in the whatever the check is that you're writing. Like I gave you the example of the $40 for the oil change. It would also take me on average an hour to drive there, pick up the car and drive back, and then also do the same thing in order to deliver the car when it was done. Or in a lot of cases, they'd come to the dealership and drop off my demo and pick up their car, but there was still a cost of an hour. So I could then figure out, how do I make that process better and how do I refine it? The other thing to keep in mind is if you expect your teammates to refer you, you've got to have something there that is a reward. So we have to compensate them in some way, shape, or form. So it's a case of those internal rewards need to be in place. And I have a tendency, remember, you've got intrinsic versus extrinsic. Compensation can happen in a lot of different ways. Not only would it be financial, but my porters, like I would do so much for them and the service team. I would go and they were my best referral sources. So at least once a month, I'd buy beer and pizza on Fridays. And, of course, it was after 5 o'clock and they were off the clock so that they weren't drinking on the job. So don't any of my HR folks get heartburn. I didn't do that. But, that's just what I did. And I would typically do it out behind the dealership. I'd say beer and pizza in the back lot. And I'd end up with a whole group of people that would come out. And it was funny because I'd often have the owner of the dealership come out and visit too. So, I mean, you just need to do other things and get creative with this. And that's how I would reward my internal referral partners that participated with this as well. Okay, so let's talk about some measurements here. And then I want to make sure that I give Chris some time because he is going to share with you how you communicate this internally and some of the key points to keep in mind there. So first thing that you have to do is you have to know where you're starting. So you heard me ask Bill at the beginning of this call, how many platinum clients did he have? How many gold clients? What is the number of where you're starting versus where you want to get to? And Bill's goal is to get to 100 introductions by the end of this year. Now, 100 introductions would hopefully yield 25 referrals at minimum that he's going to have a pretty high closing percentage on. And I don't know, Bill, what's your referral goal? How many do you want to reach in order to have the year that you're looking for?
He may be on a call right now.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, anyway, I know he's got that number in mind. We've talked about it, but it's really important that you have very specific goals and objectives for how many referrals you're looking for, to know how many are going to fit in from your Client Referral Rewards Program and how many are going to fit from referral relationships and networking and social media and all those other things. Because when you get super specific with all your programs like this, it's a lot easier for you to create the communication strategy around it and also refine that process and just keep tweaking it until you have it just right. Because that's the thing about this process is creating a referral rewards program is going to be an ongoing effort. It's not something that you're going to build at once and then it's done. It's something that you're going to continue to refine and improve on. Okay, Chris.
So thank you. I mean, this is fascinating. I always, even though we're doing this together, it's what the 22nd one, I always take a piece, away from this with me every time. Just for those of you who are not familiar with intrinsic and extrinsic, intrinsic is for the joy of something, right? It's the task is its own reward, and extrinsic is motivated, risk reward, carrot and stick kind of a thing. So just so you all can process all that. And Brendan and I talked about this last night. Specifically, is one of the things that I like to point out is the way things have evolved in a marketing sense. Is that it's no longer advertising. Used to be you just bombard people and you tell them who you are and what you are, and for instance, the idea of buying a diamond ring for marriage came up by the advertising agents or industry. Is it years ago it wasn't even a real thing, and what they said is that look, if you really love her, you're going to spend X amount of your income on this, and it became part of our culture, right? And these days it's not really, that's not the way advertising works, because with the advent of social media and things. So branding is not who you say you are, it's what your clients say you are. So what I want you to think about is, who are you? What are your values? What does your company represent? What do you want people to think of when you're mentioned, right? What you're doing is you're building a climate or a brand of everything blank, whatever you fill in the blank. You want to be top of mind with everything blank. And now Brendan talked about, the actual cost versus, her going above and beyond with the oil changes and things like that. And so what that did was that built a culture of, anybody she served, they went to a dinner party. And remember, birds of a feather fly together. And, one of their friends goes, "Hey, I saw your car, and, I'm really thinking I need to," and they were, what you want is that response, that visceral response. "Oh my God, you have to call," right? And they become your biggest advocate. So, it's not just a bribe, like, to use what was spoke about earlier. It's not just top golf, right? Especially if you have nothing to do with golf. So what we're talking about is building a brand of you. We're talking about the motivation of your clients. Is it a coupon or is it an outstanding experience? Do they want or do they care? Right? They want you to care about them. And so again, in casual conversation and networking, you're the first thing that comes to mind. And what you're doing is you're arming your best clients for you. Right? They'll become your advocates. And I'm not talking about a 3-letter networking group that doesn't know how to refer, right? That thinks that here's a name and a number, good luck is a referral. I'm not talking about that. Remember, she said 50 to 90% more likely to close on an introduction. And that's walking somebody in and going, "Look, you have to meet this person. They are amazing," right? And so what you want to do is reward that kind of a thing, right? So Brendan talked about, she was selling cars and she came up with this brilliant idea of the oil change and the above and beyond service, right? And she mentioned that she does, sales training now, and so she'll give things to people for free. And we're coming up with this thing, which we'll mention later, called Brand You. And the way we had a beta program for people and had people that have done for, that are referral partners, and we took them through it. So have you ever had that aha moment when you came up with something, maybe perhaps in your industry, that changed everything? And this is basically one of Brendan's aha moments. And I just came in and filled in some of the blanks, and this program could really change things for people. And what she did was we pulled in some of her clients that have referred for her and things like that, and gave it to them for free. So it's maybe a cost of $1,000 that could potentially change how you do business for the rest of your life, right? So that's a pretty good, that's above and beyond, I think. And one of the last things I'll say is that, Brendan mentioned real estate agents, and I hadn't even thought about this until just recently, as I just purchased a new place to live. And one of the things that I thought was, I've bought houses before, but never have I ever had a real estate agent at the very end of it thank me and go above and beyond, and then hand me, little gift certificates for the little places in my neighborhood, right? Just a little, it wasn't, $200 for this, 200, it was little tiny things, but it was showing me, what's around in my new neighborhood. So I live a far away from where I used to. And I thought, as we were talking about it, we were planning this, and it didn't even occur to me until Brendan said something about that. And I thought that was a wonderful, wonderful thing. So I hope this helps you all in understanding what the brand of you is, right? Everything blank, right? You want, when somebody says training or sales training, no matter where I am, I'm like, "Oh my God, you have got to meet Brendan." Why? You know what? I could tell you, I'm going to give you 3 or 4 reasons why, and then I'm going to take you to her, and we're going to sit down and have a cup of coffee. And then about the time that the top of your head comes off, I'm going to walk away so you guys can finish the conversation. That is a referral. That's for real, right? So that's it.
Thanks. Thank you very much. And he's done that for me quite a bit. So, and hopefully I've been able to reciprocate, because let me tell you, he's done so much for me that the top of my head has felt like it's going to come off. So, but okay. So I want to dig in, and I want to make a couple of key points before we wrap up. And know that your referral rewards program may be your services, or it may be someone else's. So we've been using real estate as an example, and I'm actually going to share an example that is based on a remodeler. So we had a client that was in the remodeling space that did a lot of room additions and kitchen remodels and things like that. So what they would do is they would throw a housewarming party or a reveal party based on whatever their project was. And they would do it 3 months after the homeowner had gotten back into the house. So they didn't do it, right after you finished a remodeling project is not a good time for you to throw a party, because normally you are totally stressed out by the whole experience. Even if it was phenomenal, it still probably stank just because of the whole nature of it. It's kind of like moving. There's nothing ever really fun about moving, but yet we all have to do it. So what they did is they created a housewarming party that the mortgage loan officer and the realtor would each kick in. And while they couldn't give gifts, they could throw parties and they could do client appreciation events. And what they would do is they would spend, if it were a smaller listing, they'd spend, $300 or $400 tops, and they'd each kick in to do it. And they do a housewarming party. And what they would do is they would get the names and addresses of all the people kind of in that homeowners association, and they would send out an invitation to come and meet the neighbors. And then they would host, and depending on how exclusive the community was, depended on whether or not it was the beer and pizza evening or whether it was the fancy hors d'oeuvres from Dean and DeLuca and wine and cheese and all that other fun stuff. So, and that's what they did at 90 days, but they would capture the names and numbers of all the people that were going to get invited. And then they would also invite all of the friends and family from the former community and then they ended up getting introduced to all of these people. And then it was funny because the introductions came from the realtor and from the mortgage loan officer. So they then had them to capture in their database in order to begin nurturing them. And then they also had the homeowner that was at the party. They were raving about him, saying, let me tell you what was so phenomenal about this experience. Okay, can you say transformational effort in your business? Just by doing those housewarming events, their business doubled. Because again, it's those warm introductions. It's not just getting names and numbers. It's getting that introduction into their pipeline of relationships with the opportunity to really cultivate. So we have covered so much ground today. And I want to make sure that I let you all know that we're just starting to scratch the surface with this. And the thing about creating an extraordinary referral rewards program and also a foundational prospecting effort is what we do all day, every day, and twice on Sundays. So feel free. I would love to chat with you if you want to talk about what productive prospecting could do for you in your business. I'd love to help. Also, I do want to just let you all know that the webinar series that is being hosted by the Women's Business Center is pretty doggone awesome. They've got some cool programs. Next week, they've actually got a free seminar on how to obtain the WBE certification, or Women Business Enterprise, that helps you qualify for a different level of contracts that you can secure with corporate entities and government entities and municipalities. And there's there's so much opportunity that is out there that we just need to kind of look up and look around. And I'll tell you, the Women's Business Center has been a phenomenal resource for companies, and their entrepreneurship series is not just for women. So don't think by the name that if you're a guy, you can't participate. You can come on in, because everything's sponsored by the SBA, and they're here to help small businesses be successful. The other thing that Chris was sharing with you a little bit earlier is a program that we put together a little bit earlier in the year that is specifically for someone that's trying to figure out how to take their knowledge and stop selling products or services or selling one-to-one, but learn how to just wrap their arms around creating an offer. That's something that Chris and I have put together, and we'd love to chat with you about that as well. So Chris, what else have we not talked about that we need to make sure that we get through before we release everybody?
Well, I've always told you, Brendan, is sitting through training with you is like drinking from a fire hose. So there's a ton that we've covered here, a ton. And it's this conversation could go on for a month, right? And so what I want you to think about is you can go to this brand view. There's a link at the bottom. You can kind of read a little bit more about that. But what we do is we like relationships. We like people, right? And then we'd love to sit down and have a cup of coffee with you, no obligation or anything. If you want to talk about brand view, if you want to talk about anything that's covered here, if you want to talk about sales or marketing, we love to do this. And the last thing I'll say about all of this is when COVID hit, right? It's the first thing is I was sitting in a class with Brendan, and I went to her and went, look, this is going on, and this is going on, and this is going on. And we both just kind of powwowed. And this is the result of that, right? And because we both have the servant mentality, and we're building a brand, for between us, and we're serving people in the effort to, instead of bribing, we're helping. And what that does is if you help people, what's it that you always say at the end, Brendan?
To get what you want, you've got to help others get what they want.
There you go. And that's the key focus of all of this, right? We're not asking you for money. We're trying to help you. All right. So.
And thank you so much for taking time with us today. And those that are still on the call. So Chris, if you want to hit the stop record button, we can wrap that up. But I